Howdy, friends. It's time for another episode of Second Cup. It's me, your host, Tim Heller. Our wonderful guest today, all the way from across the pond, is Nikki McReynolds. Nikki is a budding, aspiring, passionate, and keen voiceover artist with a difference. She understands business, which will become abundantly clear to you as we move through our conversation. Nikki has done a lot very, very well at a very high level. Now it is time to top off your beverage, get comfy, and enjoy this episode of Second Cup with my friend, Nikki McReynolds. Thank you for taking the time out of your afternoon to hang out with me for a little bit here on Second Cup.
Thank you for the intro. I'm just going to open my blinds because I look kind of dark. That may be a bit better because you look so bright.
Yeah, I've got all the nerdy shit in here to make me look better. So I've got fantastic. A couple lights in here and yeah, I've got to, yeah. But obviously we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes.
But really quick, before we jump into all of that, can you just give a little bit of an intro to who you are, where you're at, what you do?
Sure. So if you haven't told from the accent, I was born in Northern Ireland and I moved over to London in 1994. I came over for an interview with La Senza Lingerie, which is actually an North American company. And they were setting up in the UK, and I got offered the job at the interview. So I went back to Ireland, packed up and came over. And I came over in September with the view to, I think the way I get through big challenges in life is I always tell myself, you've got choices and nothing's forever. So I said, I'm only going to stay until Christmas. And here I am. It's now 29 years later.
Christmas of 2050.
Yeah, exactly. But I, all through my career, I've always had my kind of one big vision or goal or something that I always wanted to achieve was I always felt like I needed to have purpose. So every step I made and every move I took while I was over here, I had to make sure that I was adding value wherever I was. So I spent 20 plus years in business and marketing, worked on some fantastic brands, Wella Hair Care, Remington, Russell Hobbs, which is domestic electrical appliances, some kind of health and beauty products as well, and fragrances. So I have a really lovely background of brand management and product development up to the board of directors level, which was always the holy grail for me. I set off my career thinking I really want to be a director of a company. And then I just thought, you know what, scrap that. I want to be on the board of directors. And so I worked really hard and I took every opportunity that came my way. And I got onto the board at Spectrum. Spectrum owns Remington and Russell Hobbs. And that was fabulous because at that time I was the only female on the board. So it was quite a big achievement. So I was very, very proud of that. And after being on the board for about a bit over a year, I realised that, okay, I've done that now. What's my next big challenge? And I think I always had this entrepreneurial streak from being a young child. And so I think I always had a business in me. And I really believe that messages come to you when you need them. And at this time, when I was making this decision, right, I really think I need to make a break and change direction. A lot of my friends were having children and the narrative was, we know that nurseries are expensive, but we just can't find a good nursery. So I had this aha moment thinking, right, okay. And there aren't enough nurseries around. There still aren't enough nurseries around. So I thought, well, society has already accepted the fact that nurseries are expensive. So I don't have to be cheaper. I just have to do something better and something that's really good. So then the nursery was born. So I set up my first company, Nikki's Nurseries, and set up the nursery. And it was in a lovely town called Weybridge in Surrey, which is a fantastic. It's a very young town. It's got a young vibe to it. Young couples, first homes, first children, and it's a commuter town into London. So it's perfectly pitched. It was on the high street, and I grew it from naught to, I had 130 children by year 5.
What?
On roll. Yeah. But that probably made that sound really easy. It was hard.
I was thinking this whole time, like, of all the businesses to start, a nursery seems like it has so many loops and flaming hoops to jump through, and
Mm.
the level, like the risk level is incredibly high because it's other people's children.
And that's it. And that's absolutely it. So yeah, I mean, I probably make that sound really easy, but it was difficult, and I hit a very well. Um, I think that the difficulty I had was I felt very vulnerable through the whole journey because I had 30 staff, 30 nurses and support staff, and I was very vulnerable in kind of depending on them to have their best day every day, and that's not normal. You know, we are human beings,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that can really destroy your business is your Ofsted inspection.
What's that?
And Ofsted is the body that police and regulate childcare in the
Okay.
UK, and not just in nurseries but in schools as well. Um, and there was a recent story in the news here a couple of months back where a school head of school had unfortunately taken her own life, and it was in relation to the stress that the policing and the regulation can put you under as a provider. Um, and yeah, so Ofsted is a monopoly, and what they say goes basically.
Hmm.
So I hit a point in the nursery journey where um, one little thing had gone wrong, and I didn't get a very good Ofsted inspection, which broke my heart because I'd put my whole life and soul into it. You know, my flat was up as collateral. I borrowed money off the bank, borrowed money off my mum.
You did it.
And yeah, so anyway, you know, I, with the grace of God, found some inner strength and came back fighting, and turned it around with a really good management team behind me. So my role was the business side, the legalities of it, managing the stakeholders, um, invoicing, marketing, all of that. And I had a really good manager at the time, Jenna, give her a shout out, who was responsible for the complete provision and making sure that the quality was really high, that we were delivering for the children and for the parents. So Ofsted returned and we got a good with outstanding features, which
Hey.
was phenomenal. And then we were on the up, and that's when we really built the nursery together as a team. And we were full. We had a waiting list. We had a fantastic Ofsted inspection, um, and I got to the point where the parents were doing the marketing, so they were
Oh, that's
recommending the
the
nursery.
best marketing is word of mouth.
Uh,
That's
yeah, and
that,
and that was
and
always
social media have been the
and
two things that have booked me the most work.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, there are lots of I think there's lots of cons with social media, but there's definitely lots of pros if it's on
Mm-hmm.
your side,
Yep.
and you can make it work. So then I just got to the point where I remember calling my mum and saying, "Do you know what, mum? I think this is the best this is ever going to be. I'm full. I've got a waiting list. I'm I've got a growth strategy. The building's looking fantastic. I've got an amazing Ofsted. I've got parents that are singing praises. I think it's time to sell." And that's what I did. I went to 3 different brokers, and yeah, so I sold just before COVID, and
Wow.
you know how lucky and how
Yeah.
grateful,
I mean,
because I think
that's, I mean, divine timing with all of it. It sounds like is that it's all
absolutely.
really incredibly worked in your favor. And something I'd
Mm.
like to touch on before we jump into your newest career venture that you're
Mhm.
doing, um,
Mhm.
is two things about building a business, because it's stuff that I'm kind of learning on the fly as since I've started in the voiceover world, and looking at like coming up through my background's in musical theater, live performance, and TV film. And in school here, they're always saying, you are your own product. Like, you're the product. You have to market yourself. You have to, treat yourself as your own business. And I think that that's true. But when I didn't really like get it until I moved into the voiceover world, and I saw more regular numbers, and I could see things and manipulate things and see a direct effect in terms of that. And I love numbers and formulas and
Mhm.
all of that
Mhm.
stuff. And so the thing that I'm starting now, as things are growing out of just voiceover and growing more into the marketing side and doing more of like production and branching out, and it's all stuff that's just kind of fallen in my lap that I've said yes to and we'll figure out on the fly, is that investment of like, okay, cool, like I am going through a phase right now where I'm having to spend a lot to get things done the way that I need them done, and done by other people, because I don't have that bandwidth. So how is that? What is that experience like? Because I listened to a couple different business podcasts, and one in particular talks a lot about like, oh yeah, you know, we hear all the time that people max out their credit cards or take out another mortgage on their home, or borrow money from their parents to do these things. What is that decision making process like, and what does that feel like emotionally? Because I imagine it feels like a heavy metal ping pong match in your head of like, this is going to work, and like I don't need to sell anybody on this because it is just this beautiful idea that I know will return. And then
Mhm.
also the other side of the table of, oh God, like this is not just me, this is other people's
Mhm.
money, and this is other
Mhm.
people's livelihood.
Yeah, gosh, that's a tough one, because when I think about investment, I don't think about the finances. I think about the investment in terms of the sacrifice that I made. I made a lot of sacrifices, but we'll park that. Talking about the investment side, um, the nursery business model is quite an interesting one, because you invoice at the beginning of the month. So you get all your money in at the beginning of the month, all your parents' fees. Then you know where you are, and you
Mm,
know how to. So in terms of managing your cash flow, it becomes a little bit easier. But when you're on the cusp, and there were weeks that I remember looking at the bank balance and there was £200, and I had to run the business and feed all the children, and blah blah blah, with on peanuts. And there's ways of managing it, in which, in terms of managing your cash flow. So I'm one of these people, traditionally, if I get an invoice in, I pay it right away, because I hate owing money. But
mhm.
you learn to not. You learn to hold on to that invoice
Yep.
until the last day. And so it's things like that. I think the biggest frustration for me was, um, I didn't factor into my cash flow breakages, and there were a lot. Um, and this constant need to replace resources and constantly keep the nursery fresh. And then aside to that, I had a full repair lease contract, which meant that I was fully responsible for the building and I didn't own it. And it was old. And,
Mm,
I had to like repair chimney pots and windowsills, and was constantly painting to keep it all fresh. So there were lots of things that really sucked money out of my cash flow. Um, and now, as a voiceover artist, I'm so in relation to what you're just saying, it's a very, very different thing. It's a very different thing to try and um, justify, I guess, because the investment is now in me, which is very, very different. I always
mhm.
saw the investment in the nursery as investing in the children. They were always my priority, and my staff, of course, looking after my staff. Um,
And the
and
cash
so,
flow in voiceover is not always a flow. It's sometimes it's a trickle, and sometimes it's just like a breeze. And there is no
yes,
there is
yes,
no cash,
yes,
but so it's
yeah,
different.
no, yeah, and absolutely. And so, how long have you been doing it, Tim? And what do you think is your biggest thing that you've really tried to adjust to or get your head around?
I mean, it's always going to be the uncertainty and impatience for me are the two
Hmm.
things that are most exciting and also most stressful about all of this, is that
Hmm.
it is a roller coaster. And it's, so you're
Hmm.
going to have these high highs, these low lows, and it's learning how to navigate it, and also while navigating an industry that's constantly changing, and the voices they're looking for are constantly changing, and then the genres are, it's so I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and
Hmm.
it's, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of it. I just went to VO Atlanta at the end of March, and that was so eye opening and so
Hmm.
valuable. And talk about investing in yourself in terms of spending that kind of, to see how many people showed up at that conference and invested in themselves, because it's not easy financially to go. It's, I mean, for most people, it's probably the whole weekend could cost $1,500 to $2,000
Wow. Wow.
between the ticket to the conference, the hotel, and then food while you're there, and any other extra classes you want to take could easily take it into like a couple grand. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, it's the impatience and the uncertainty.
Yeah. So when I sold the nursery, and so I've kind of got a little bit of training on freelance, because I decided then to take all of my experience of building brands and my experience of setting up a business and kind of pull it all together and then giving it out to people who need it, basically. So, um, and that's freelance. That has its ups and downs as well. So, kind of coming into the voiceover world, I feel a little bit prepared for the ups and downs. But of course, it's a completely new industry, and I'm now learning to market myself rather than
Yeah,
market my
it's
business, which
weird,
is
right?
really weird. Yeah, and it's really weird. And when I get testimonials through, whether it's video or, and I say to my friends, gosh, I really should put this on LinkedIn because it's really good. But oh gosh, I feel a bit, it's that kind of imposter syndrome, which we all struggle with. And promoting ourselves is difficult. It just doesn't feel natural, I think, to
Mm-hmm.
me anyway.
Yeah, and something that somebody said at the conference, I think it was Donovan Corneets, and he's the voice of the Today Show. Is I think probably one of his most recognizable things. He does the BET Awards and a ton. He's like a big voice in our world, and um, he was saying, like on LinkedIn, like that's where you need to brag about yourself, because nobody, like anybody who's looking at you and thinking like, oh God, they're bragging, is insecure about whatever they're doing or not, more so
Mm,
what they're not doing.
mhm.
And it is so important to be able to go. And as soon as he said that, like the next day I looked on LinkedIn and I saw an exponential increase in the requests I had from people to connect on there, and the amount of people, and voice actors specifically, posting on LinkedIn and sharing what they had done. And some of my
Amazing.
friends, like that I know through social media that we met for the first time there, posting these incredible gigs that I'm like, why wouldn't you share that?
Mm,
Like the
mm,
voice of a shout out to Ted Evans. He's in LA and a wonderful guy and has done a lot of really amazing work. Um, and just seeing him share a post about like a NASCAR spot that he did, and it's like a really great promo spot. And I had never seen him post on LinkedIn before. Like, Ted, come
that's
on, man.
amazing.
So I would encourage you to do it. I feel weird about social media too. I have a love-hate relationship with it because it's how I've grown my business to where it is now, and it's fun, but it also, like, there are, like, recently especially, I've been feeling like I really just wish I could not do it. It's just the
I know.
pressure of like auditioning, running a business, running a couple different small businesses, and then like, oh
Mhm.
shit, I have to make content too. And it's
Yeah.
but it's important.
Yeah, it is important, but I think the thing with social, which I find, is I have to be really strict. I have to say, right, I'm going to spend the next hour on LinkedIn and
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and that's it. And you've got to draw the line, because all of a sudden you can suck in so much of your life. But the thing that the LinkedIn, the self promotion thing actually is something, it's quite interesting and something I'm very self aware of and really trying to shift my mindset. Um, And I think when I see people that are promoting themselves, all I do is applaud them. I think, wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. You've got that audition.
right.
Amazing. That's great. So then I think, well, people are probably thinking the same about me. So I have to just get out of that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Just kind of
you're
change
showing
that tape,
off.
change it out, and it's, yeah, it's easier said than done, but I think
Yeah.
it's just, if you can set it and forget it, you just know like, okay, cool. This may feel gross for about 5 minutes, but I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to delete it and just leave it,
Hmm.
and then you'll see that your community really
Yeah.
comes to your side.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's. I'd love to hear more about the decision to go into voiceover specifically from your background in branding and marketing, building these companies, and
Hmm.
the nursery. What was that?
Hmm.
How did this come into play? And just take me through that process.
Yeah, somebody said to me yesterday, it was my friend Nadia, who said, you actually have five career changes in your life, apparently. So I'm on my third, like, off on a tangent, kind of bizarre. But um, for years, people have been telling me I've got a great voice, and I think when I was younger, I hated it. I hated when you hear your voice on your voicemail, or when somebody recorded you, and I always hated it. But I kind of thought in the back of my mind, and it's the same thing when I was setting up the nursery. Messages come to you when you need to hear them, and this happened about probably this time last year, and I see people kept saying to me, "Gosh, you've got a great voice," and I was thinking, "No, I haven't." But I then around September time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask somebody who's an expert in this and see, do I have a good voice? Like, is this something? Because crikey, how amazing would that be if I could make money from my own voice? I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I spoke to a friend called Lizzie, who's been in the voiceover industry for about 6 years, and she's fantastic. She's very cool, got a great voice. And I did a foundation course with her to just work out, okay, what's the industry all about, and how do I kind of get some traction? And she said, for the record, you've got a good voice. So she said, but if I really recommend you get some coaching, like don't just go out there and do voiceover work. So I invested. There's my tiny little studio, my GIK acoustic
I love
panels.
it. Shout out to GIK. I've got them.
Oh,
I had that
they're
same setup
amazing.
you do. I had got 2 of those, and now
Yeah,
I took them
I have
apart, and they're
2.
all over my studio now. They're
Oh,
great. I love them, and
they are.
my wife loves them because they don't look like the foam that you buy on Amazon.
Yeah,
They're
no,
aesthetically pleasing, and
really lovely and lovely
yeah.
designs and lots of colorways. And so I invested in all of this, and she said, go get some coaching. The best person in the industry in the UK is Tanya Richcraft.
I know of Tanya. My friend Henry he works with her a lot. Henry Willard,
And he does video, doesn't he? Yes,
Yep.
we're connected on LinkedIn. And so I embarked on my Richcraft journey, and I'm coached by Tanya, Alicia, Bob, and Greg. And it's been a journey. It's been fun, and I have learned so much. Who knew? Who knew how it's a real profession? And it takes an expert to really deliver a paragraph in a really engaging way. And
yeah.
I've learned so much, so much. So I'm still being coached. And I think the coaching will be ongoing. I think as a continual learner myself, I commit to always learning, whether it's in personal development, whether it's in the mentoring and the voiceover as well. So I'm always in workshops, jumping on any training that I can get, paid or unpaid. I think it doesn't matter. It's all an investment, as we said. And at the end of March, I got my reels done.
Nice.
So my commercial and corporate reels.
And they
I'm
sound
not sure.
Fantastic. I checked them out this morning before we jumped on. So anybody listening to this should definitely go check out Nikki's website, and it is nmrvoices.com. And take a listen.
You're so kind. You're so kind. Thank you very much. And somebody said, "Gosh, you've got a voice like velvet." So I thought, oh, "Wow, what a tagline!"
Branding.
Do you know what? Yeah, brilliant. And it didn't cost me anything. I didn't have to pay huge amounts of money for that. So, and yes, my reels were done by Rich O'Donoghue at IO Audio, who is brilliant as well. He's fantastic. So yeah, so that's where I am, and I feel like I can't focus on anything until the marathon on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then I go skiing next week. Is my post-marathon treat.
Amazing. Where are you going skiing?
I'm going to Teens, and apparently they've had fresh snow, and because it's really high, it's like 2,000 plus. Do you ski, Tim?
Yeah, I snowboard.
Of course you board. Of course you board. All the cool people board.
Just a cool guy shredding the gnar on a board over here.
Yeah.
In Texas. Great skiing.
Oh, well, skiing or snowboarding, I think it's just great fun. And I've been doing it properly for about 5 or 6 years, and I kind of cruise the blues. I'm really comfortable on the blues, and I'm happy on the reds if I'm with a couple of people who are really good skiers, because I tumble, don't we all? I have a few tumbles. But I love the après ski. of course, doesn't everybody, but I love the spirit. I love the ambience.
A perfect day is waking up at like 5:30, 6, getting to the slopes, like first thing, you're at like one of the first 100 people on the mountain, and then you're done by like 1 or 2, and you've had a full day, and it's the best sleep. And food doesn't taste better than after skiing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can justify the calories because you've burnt them off.
Exactly.
Mm, that's great. Oh, good. You're an avid snow lover.
I love
That's
it.
good to
Yeah.
know.
So with the you mentioned your mentorship side of your business
Yes.
too. How did that start? Was that in between the nursery and VO, or is that something
No.
that's still ongoing? And what does
Yeah,
that
yeah,
look like?
totally. It's ongoing. So I left when I sold the nursery. I kind of left that whole business world. And 2020 hit. I decided I was going to take a couple of months off and then work out what I wanted to do. And then, of course, COVID, the pandemic hit. The whole world had taken, a year or whatever off. So I embraced it. Took some time out. You never really get a chance to take time out. Then my mum fell ill and I was flying back and forth to Northern Ireland to help care for her. She passed away at the end of 2020. So the beginning of 21, I felt like I just really wanted to help people. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but it came from a real place of authenticity. Like I genuinely wanted to, I think when I took a step back and I looked at my career and I looked at the nursery and as a business and the mistakes that I made, um, that it was all learning. I wouldn't change any of it, but I think, gosh, there were a couple of things. I mean, there were definitely things I would do differently. How about if I was able to share that with somebody who didn't make the same mistakes that I made and made more money than I made?
Hmm.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great to pass that learning on? Um, so I set up a consultancy initially, and I got my first client, was a local businessman, and then I got another client, and then I got another client, and I was doing consultancy because I fell back on it because it was something that I could do really quickly with my eyes shut. But after a few months, I felt like I wasn't being challenged. I was doing all the stuff that I used to do when I was doing before the nursery, but gradually, clients that were coming to me knew how to do the do. They didn't need me to go and do the do. They just needed me to coach them. So I started doing coaching, showing them how to do the do. And then I guess by a twist of fate, or by the way my clients progressed, the coaching then turned into mentoring. And so it became more of a guiding advisory role. And I honestly think I feel like I've landed. I feel like this is where I am supposed to be. And I love the mentoring because I feel I'm I'm getting real impact. I'm impacting people's lives and businesses, and I'm seeing real change. Whereas as a consultant, I was doing that. So it's very, very different when
Hmm. A little
there's
bit
a
more
real
transactional, where a consultant can come in, you get your fee, and then you're
and you
around
do
for
it.
that contracted time, and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done.
That's exactly it. And I love people, and with the mentoring, I feel like I'm really part of their personal life as well as their business life. Um and so kind of that's where I am. So in order to bolster my experience and I guess pursue that passion, I joined the Dale Carnegie Institute. Dale Carnegie's
Hmm.
American. He wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I trained to be a Dale Carnegie coach. Passed my exams last year, which is brilliant.
Congrats,
Um,
congrats.
thank you, and very proud to be part of the Dale Carnegie family because I think I really stand by the principles and employ them in my own life. So that's great. And then I now am really heavily involved with the Association of Business Mentors, the ABM. And I guess if from a creative point of view, voicing runs through my life. So helping people to find their voice, whether it's through the
Hmm.
mentoring or the coaching, and through the ABM. The ABM is a body that really supports mentoring and gives the best advice to the provision of mentoring for mentors and mentees, and helps mentors and mentees find their voice. Um, so that I guess I've got the two revenue streams running hand in hand. One is the mentoring and the coaching, which I absolutely love, and the other is the voiceover work, which is new. I feel very new. It's super exciting, and I think isn't it great if you can do something that you absolutely love, and enjoy it? I mean, isn't that what life's all about? Just being
Yeah, it's a huge,
happy
it's the biggest
and
gift, and it's
yeah.
what has been something that's been like the most unexpected part of jumping into the voiceover world for you? Because this is how long you've been in it, about a year now.
Well, I guess September last year,
Wow,
so
so not even
I'm
yet. Yeah.
no, I'm very new. What's the biggest what? Sorry, the biggest
What's been
learning?
something that's been really unexpected for you, in since you've started this journey into building your voiceover business? What's been something that's like, oh, I didn't expect that, but that's kind of lovely, or, ooh, I don't know if I expected it to be that difficult.
Okay, so a couple of trains of thought. I didn't realize. Well, I guess there's two things. I didn't realize that it was as saturated as it is in the
Mm-hmm.
UK. There are lots of voiceovers. Um, but on the flip side, if I think of when I entered the marketing world, there were lots of brand managers and there were lots of product development people and there were lots of board directors and all of those things I achieved. So there is room for me, I think. I think there's a place for all of us.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I think the other thing that I've noticed that it's probably a little bit concerning, and but I'm intrigued at how there are different ways of entering the voiceover industry, um, and I feel I've done it the right way. So having patience, being coached,
Yep.
taking time, building the website, getting the reels done, investing in the studio. They're all milestones and tick boxes that I feel are really important in order to make kind of an authentic um, journey. But then, of course, you've got the Upworks and the Fivers and the other platforms where people are offering their voice and their services for next to nothing, which unfortunately lowers the value of the marketplace.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I guess what I'm also learning, I actually got an offer of a job, which was
Hey,
brilliant last.
congrats.
Well, and I had to turn it down because through all the advice that I've had and all the learning that I've had, people have kept saying if the contract says in perpetuity, you should kind
Yep.
of walk away. And so I had to walk away. And so
Well,
I think
congrats
that's
for that too. I mean, that's a big milestone too, is having to turn down work, and it's too. It's not even just walking away, but uh, starting that conversation with the client. And a lot of, I find, more than narrating or doing any voicing, it's educating
mm,
clients on, like, okay, this is actually why I'm charging this for 30 minutes, because it's
mhm.
not just 30 minutes, because it's going to play, and there's been training over the years, and it's building that expertise, or this is why I can't do in perp
Mhm.
work.
And Tim, that's been the biggest. Sorry, actually, that's been my biggest learning. Starting off thinking, oh well, I'll volunteer, I'll do this for free, I'll build up my portfolio, and that situation that happened last week, and then having advice from another voiceover who said to me, don't do this because one, in perpetuity is forever. It
Hmm.
can conflict with other projects that you're going to audition for. Um, People in the industry see that you've gone for that role. It can affect, all this stuff. And I think, wow, these are huge insights and huge learnings for me. So I've it's difficult and it's a hard cross to bear, but it's really important, I think, to really stand by what we believe in and have self-worth and know that yeah, there is room for me in the voiceover industry, and I am patient and I will hold on and wait for that great audition and that great job. But I'm really keen on exploring audiobooks
Mm.
and narration. So I think I'm going to start focusing on that after I come back from skiing. um, I really like the idea. I know it's hard work, and I know it's maybe not as lucrative as commercials and things like that. But
It is whatever
there's
you want to
lots.
make it, and
Yeah.
it's just different, and that's one of the most fun things, and one of the more surprising things that I've found in the 5 years that I've been doing this, is just the how each, so voiceover as an industry is a very niche and specialized industry, even however saturated it may be. But then within that industry, there's all these other small genres and subgenres, and it's just like really you can really niche down and create a beautiful business for yourself doing
Hmm. Yeah.
whatever. Um, but super
So
important to
when,
explore that and continue training like you've just come
mhm,
out of the gates doing.
mhm. So you're 5 years in, Tim. Is there anything that you think to yourself, gosh, I wish I'd known that. I might have started differently, or I might have approached it differently, or
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest part for me, because I started in 2018 is really when I like hit the ground running with stuff. And that I wish I would have used the 2 years before the pandemic hit, um, to build a little bit more in-person community. Just because at the time my wife and I were living in New York City, huge community there. I didn't even know really, and I was just kind of figuring stuff out on my own,
Mhm.
and not through any for any kind of prideful reasons. It was just that like I was like, all right, if anybody's going to make this happen, it's me, and I'm just going to be like ruthlessly curious about how to get jobs in LA and New York and and then I was like, oh, then all these other markets too, and learning the business side of things. And so once I found community, starting with the Voice Actors of New York City Facebook group, um, that really changed things for me because all of a sudden I had resources of people who had made all the mistakes that I'd made, and are doing the same thing that you're doing through your mentorship of
Mhm.
just trying to like smooth that journey out so it's not so bumpy at the beginning.
Mhm.
But I think that building
Mhm.
community aspect is super important.
Mhm. And that is one of the things I absolutely love. So being part of Richcraft, being part of, you'll have heard of Wonderland, Bradshaw, Wonderland VO,
I haven't no,
being
but I'm
it's
also
good.
like
So
embarrassingly bad about like all of going to VO Atlanta made me see like, okay, I know like the names that I know, but then the other things that people are super involved in, I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I should know this, but it's okay
I
not
should
to
do it.
know.
Yeah. No, it's okay not to know. It's a big environment, isn't it? But yeah, so I feel there's a lovely kind of camaraderie, which I am really tapping into. So there is a lot of support out there. And I love meeting people. And so having never liked networking, I'm actually really enjoying networking because I don't see it as networking. I see it as just widening my circle, which is lovely, isn't it? You can never know too many people, can you? You can never
Yeah.
have. But we've got One Voice happening in London in May, which is our big conference.
Yep.
And so really looking forward to that because this is my first event. And I'm looking forward to seeing all those people that have been sitting on Zoom
Yep.
or Teams or WebEx and actually seeing them in real life. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be really good.
I hope it's as wonderful for you as it was for me at VO Atlanta, because it was like it was just my favorite part about the whole experience. And I talked about this with George Novick, who was on the show before VO Atlanta and after that,
Hmm.
being able to meet all these people, like you said, that you've seen on your screen and that you think the world of, and they're just the loveliest people on social media, and then meeting them in person and they're even more lovely, is just to be able to like give somebody a hug or a fist bump and just
Yeah.
sit for 2 hours and talk, and like you've done on the phone or on Zoom or however you've
Hmm.
communicated. But it just is, it's a really special like grounding experience in some ways
Hmm.
of being like, okay, cool, like I know I've had my like safety net of people, but now I feel like it's like we really like have each other and we're really
Hmm.
rooting for each other. It's a different there's something different about it.
Hmm. It is, and it's great because we all offer something unique, right? We all have a different voice, different tone, different warmth. We approach reads differently, so there is a place for all of us, I think.
Yeah, everybody's got a great voice, and it's
Mm.
just a matter of whether or not you're able to, whether you want this to be a side gig or a
Hmm.
career, and you just
Hmm.
have to be able to execute, be patient, force yourself to be patient. Saying that for myself as much as I am for anybody else who
Hmm.
needs to hear it,
Hmm.
and you just keep going, keep learning new
Yeah,
things and trying new things out.
yeah. I mean, my goal is for it to be 100% my
Yeah,
full time role. But you know what? You sometimes you got to run things parallel until that happens.
yeah. Or some, in my case, it became full time, and then I decided to add add more things to
More.
it. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for taking this much
Oh,
time to come and hang out and for
it's
reaching
been
out to
lovely.
it's been so wonderful to connect with you. And if you ever need anything going forward or have any questions or you're in my circle now. So anybody I know,
Thank you.
and I'm just
Thank
happy
you,
to help
Tim.
and so excited that you're in the industry now and you're doing it.
Thank you. That's cool. And if you're ever over in the UK, I think you should do like a fireside chat with Tim Heller. I
Oh
think
my gosh,
you should
I
do
would
an
love
event.
that. I'm running out of excuses not to be. I've never been to the UK before, and now I've got a growing list of friends and clients over there. So I'm
You must
very
come.
quickly running out of excuses not to be
Yeah,
there for a minute. Well,
you
before
must
I
come.
cut you
We'd love
loose,
to have you.
oh, and I'm a huge football fan too. So I have to
Oh,
go, and that's how my geography of the UK has been learned is just by clubs.
Manchester, Liverpool,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
yeah. The Brighton. I was like Brighton. I know Brighton.
Oh, Brighton. Yeah. Okay.
Well, before I cut you loose, I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you. So this is just like try to think as little as possible on it. Whatever's top of the noggin comes to mind first.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Who inspires you right now?
Uh. Oh my gosh. Who inspires me right now? Um. Oh, who
Or where do you draw
inspires me?
inspiration? Whether it's on a run or uh, sitting down to work.
Oh, I know. Sorry. Who completely inspires me right now is someone who doesn't know that they've got me through my long runs every Sunday for the last 4 months, and that's Steve Bartlett.
Okay. Awesome.
You know
Great.
Steve Bartlett?
I do. I do.
So, another podcast,
Yeah. His show's
Diary.
great.
Uh, Honestly, Diary of a CEO.
Talk about a great
Um,
voice too. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. And he's so humble and so modest and so
Mm-hmm.
noble. And he inspires, and the reason why he inspires me is because, and this is something I mentioned to you when we first chatted a couple of weeks back, which I think, you both do really well, is that you've got people from all different genres and backgrounds, and, you talk about lots of different things. Steve, on Sunday, he had Chris Williamson, and, and I've listened to it 3 times.
Hmm.
Because I find it's almost like I feel like I need to sit down with a pen and paper and take notes. It is that inspiring. It is intriguing. Things land for me, really makes me think about things and question things, makes me go and look things up.
Yeah.
Um, so if I could afford to have a mentor, it'd be Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not already listening to Diary of a CEO, you should. It's
Oh,
I
yeah.
like to I have very few podcasts in rotation just because I don't have a whole lot of time to just leave it on in the background. But since moving down to Texas, we have time in the car, which is fantastic. And so it's
Mhm.
just getting back to listening. I've got my purely for entertainment podcast that I listen to, inspiration podcast list, and that's on there.
Ah.
So I guess that could feed into the next question. What's a piece of content you can't get enough of right now? Which is, it could be a podcast, could be a TV show, could be a book, but
Um, a Diary of a CEO,
yeah.
definitely. I think podcasts in general have become a huge part of my life because as I watch TV less and less and less, because there's nothing on there that's interesting, and as I'm running and I'm outside more, and even just going around the house doing domestic chores, headphones in, podcast on.
Yep.
I've been listening to lots of podcasts on voiceover, and there's one in the UK. How do you say that?
I
With
haven't
and
heard of that one. No.
Samantha Boffin. It's really good, and they have lots of different guests. So learning about voiceover and just being inspired, generally personal development are big things for me. So that doesn't kind of specifically answer your question,
It does
but
enough. It's podcasts in general and Diary of a CEO. Obviously,
yeah,
it's a
Tim, I'm always
powerful show.
learning.
Yeah.
I'm always learning, and I'm always recommendations for books. I've got a book at the moment, which I'm just about to start, called 4,000 Weeks,
Okay.
and it was one of the New York bestsellers. Um, and it's basically, on average, we have 4,000 weeks in our life. So how do you want to use them?
Yeah.
So that's my next big inspiration. So I'm looking forward to it. And actually, it was mentioned on the Steve Bartlett podcast.
Oh,
by
well,
Chris
fantastic.
Williamson. So
Full
there you go.
circle.
So it's a you see messages
I know
come to you
everything's
when you
being
need
just
them.
dropped in your lap as you
It's,
need it. Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Third question is, what is a nickname you had as a kid?
Oh gosh, it might offend some people. I had two. I had Nicky Noodles, and then I had Specky Four Eyes because I wore glasses. I mean, how cruel!
That's
How cruel
brutal.
are children?
Not just Four Eyes, but Specky Four Eyes.
Specky
The
Four
addition of
Eyes.
Specky is
Yeah,
really a
yeah.
pro insult. So whoever started calling you that.
I know. It's when you look. I mean, I do think kids can be quite cruel sometimes,
Yep.
but yeah. I don't think I could get away with saying it now. It's just so
Yeah, I don't know.
offensive.
Yeah, I don't know if they could. I'm sure maybe out on the playground.
But
But-
you know, wearing glasses is cool now. So
I know. I grew up in the wrong. I mean, me wearing glasses will never be cool because I've got like the thick prescription, blind as a bat. Yeah. Well, last
Okay, that was a
quick
great
fire
question.
question is, you can only have pizza one last time. Where from? What's on it? And there's no dietary repercussions if you are allergic to
Okay,
anything.
okay. So Pizza Express, thin base, pepperoni, American extra hot with lots of cheese.
Hell yeah, love it. Simple.
I do actually like tuna and banana, and I know it sounds really weird.
Tuna and okay,
And
hang
banana.
On. Whoa.
Oh,
On a pizza?
Try
What
it.
is it, like canned tuna or is it like ahi tuna? Like
Gosh, it's probably canned. It's probably canned. No, I mean if I was to get
banana on pizza, I have
try.
Okay.
Please
I mean,
try it.
I will 100% try it. I just don't know where the hell I'm going to find that, or I'll probably
Do
just
it.
have to make it my own.
Do it yourself. Do it yourself. But I have years ago. I did actually ask Pizza Express, and they made it for me.
Okay, let's just break this down anatomically because I want to know what because I'm going to do this.
I'll tell you where it came from. Do it. It came from there was a TV ad years ago, and I can't remember. I'm talking maybe 30 years ago. And it was about a lady being pregnant, and her husband asked her what she wanted on her pizza, and she said tuna and banana. And it was because she was pregnant; she was having these cravings.
Yeah.
Well, of course, me being curious Nikki, I went off to try and discover what this tasted like, and it's pretty good. So actually, I'm going to change it. That would be my last pizza: thin, crisp, tuna and banana.
And is it like red sauce, tuna, banana?
No. No sauce. Well, the tomato paste that you have generally on a pizza, cheese on top, tuna and banana.
Wow.
I'm
terrified
and
so excited.
Do you promise me you're going to have it this weekend?
This weekend, I don't know, but I will. I will pinky promise right now that I will make that. Oh my God. My wife will watch on in pictures. Horror.
She'll love it.
I'm writing this
She'll love
down. Wow.
Tuna and banana.
Done.
I'm so glad I've broadened your horizons.
You have. I feel so much more cultured now that I'm
broadened your world.
Oh my goodness.
Lovely to talk to you, Tim.
Yeah, you too, Nikki. Thank you so much for doing this. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us for this episode of Second Cup with my friend Nikki McReynolds. To stay up to date with everything that she has going on her voiceover career, you can follow her at voice_like_velvet. And to get in touch or stay abreast of what's going on with the mentorship and coaching that she offers, you can follow her at guiding_with_wisdom. To find her demos and more information about her voiceover career, you can go to her website, www.nmrvoices.com. Thank you, as always, to the Second Cup team behind the scenes. We have Tara Seuss, Auberth Bursey, Sarang Sharma, and Julius Shepard Morgan. If you've enjoyed this episode of Second Cup or any of the previous 40-something episodes that we've produced, please consider leaving us a like, a comment, share with a friend. Leave a review if you are listening through a podcast platform. Every little bit of engagement helps the show a ton. Stay tuned for the next episode of Second Cup for another amazing conversation with somebody really cool. Bye-bye now.